ExamPrep.School. Washington Life and Disability Insurance Producer Combo Exam. There are 4 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Annuities, disability income and related insurance, federal laws and regulations, federal tax considerations for life and health insurance, general insurance concepts, group health insurance for senior citizens and special needs individuals, individual accident and health insurance policy provisions, life insurance policy provisions, options, and riders, life, accident, and health insurance basics, medical plans, types of life insurance policies, Washington laws, rules, and regulations. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Which of the following best describes the primary purpose of the Fair Credit Reporting Act as it applies to insurance underwriting? A. To require insurers to obtain consumer consent before accessing credit reports for underwriting purposes. B. To require reporting agencies to ensure credit data accuracy and limit its use to permitted purposes like underwriting. C. To restrict insurers from setting premium rates based exclusively on consumer credit history. D. To require insurers to provide consumers with explanations of credit score computations after underwriting. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that the Fair Credit Reporting Act mandates consumer reporting agencies to maintain reasonable procedures to ensure the accuracy of credit data and to restrict dissemination of reports to permissible purposes, including insurance underwriting. The other options misstate the Act's scope by placing procedural or disclosure obligations on insurers, or by inventing premium-setting restrictions not found in the law. Reason A is not correct. This choice incorrectly assigns a procedural requirement to insurers, rather than focusing on consumer reporting agencies, which the Act actually regulates. Reason C is not correct. This choice misrepresents the Act by suggesting it imposes direct limits on insurer premium-setting practices, which is not addressed in the law. Reason D is not correct. This choice erroneously attributes a post-decision disclosure obligation to insurers, whereas the Act governs reporting agencies and permissible use rather than insurer disclosures. Question 2. Under 18 U.S.C. 1033, which of the following roles is John Doe still prohibited from performing at Sun Life Insurance Company? A. Reviewing and filing policy renewal notices under supervision. B. Assisting the underwriting department with risk assessments. C. Serving as a life insurance agent and collecting premiums. D. Performing clerical data entry tasks for processed claims. The correct answer is C. This option is correct because 18 U.S.C. 1033 prohibits anyone convicted of a felony involving dishonesty or breach of trust from acting as an insurance agent, broker, or adjuster, including collecting premiums or soliciting policies, until they have received relief from the court. Reason A is not correct. Reviewing and filing renewal notices under supervision is a ministerial function not classified as acting as an insurance agent. Reason B is not correct. Assisting underwriting with risk assessments does not involve soliciting or negotiating insurance contracts and is permitted as a non-agent role. Reason D is not correct. Performing clerical data entry for claims is a purely administrative task, exempt from the statutory prohibition. Question 3. Under the Revised Code of Washington, which of the following is a statutory duty of the insurance commissioner? A. Adjudicate civil insurance contract litigation. B. Set premium rates for individual health insurance policies. C. Provide binding arbitration in insurance claim disputes. D. Administer and enforce the state's insurance code. The correct answer is D. The insurance commissioner is charged with administering and enforcing the state's insurance code, while rate setting, arbitration, and judicial dispute resolution fall outside the commissioner's statutory duties. Reason A is not correct. Adjudicating civil contract disputes is a judicial function, not an administrative duty of the commissioner. Reason B is not correct. Setting premium rates is not a direct statutory duty. Rate approvals require filings and review rather than commissioner rate setting. Reason C is not correct. Providing binding arbitration is not authorized. Arbitration may occur privately but not as a commissioner duty. Question 4. Which authority does the Washington Insurance Commissioner possess when conducting a market conduct examination of an insurer? A. Institute criminal prosecution for violations. B. Require insurer employees to testify under oath. C. Revoke an insurer's certificate of authority without a hearing. D. Mandate use of specific policy forms without approval. The correct answer is B. During a market conduct examination, the commissioner may subpoena records and require sworn testimony, but criminal prosecution, immediate revocation without hearing, and mandating unapproved forms exceed the commissioner's authority. Reason A is not correct. The commissioner cannot prosecute criminally and must refer suspected crimes to law enforcement. Reason C is not correct. Revocation requires a due process hearing, not unilateral action without hearing. Reason D is not correct. Mandating policy forms without the department's review or approval is beyond examination authority. Question 5. Absent extraordinary circumstances, what is the minimum frequency for the commissioner to conduct a financial examination of a licensed insurer in Washington? A. Every 3 years. B. Annually. C. Every 5 years. D. Every 10 years. The correct answer is C. Washington law generally requires a comprehensive financial examination of each insurer at least once every 5 years, unless circumstances warrant an earlier review. Reason A is not correct. 3-year cycles are not the statutory minimum for financial exams in Washington. Reason B is not correct. Annual examinations are not required absent specific risk factors or requests. Reason D is not correct. 10-year intervals exceed the maximum period allowed under statute. Question 6. Under Washington law, if the insurance commissioner determines that an insurance producer is engaging in unfair or deceptive practices, the commissioner may A. Suspend the insurer's certificate of authority. B. Impose criminal penalties directly without referral. C. Levy administrative fines exceeding statutory maximums. D. Issue a cease and desist order against the producer. The correct answer is D. The commissioner is authorized to issue cease and desist orders for unfair or deceptive practices, imposing criminal penalties, exceeding fine limits, or suspending an insurer's certificate without due process is beyond that authority. Reason A is not correct. Suspending an insurer's certificate is unrelated to actions against individual producers. Reason B is not correct. Criminal penalties require prosecution by law enforcement, not direct commissioner action. Reason C is not correct. Administrative fines cannot exceed statutory maximums set by law. Question 7. Which of the following constitutes a valid ground for the Washington Insurance Commissioner to deny or revoke an insurance producer's license? A. Non-completion of a voluntary product training course. B. Failure to maintain errors and omissions insurance. C. Conviction of a felony involving dishonesty or breach of trust. D. Late payment of continuing education fees. The correct answer is C. A conviction of a felony involving dishonesty or breach of trust directly undermines integrity requirements and is a statutory ground for license denial or revocation, whereas the other items are not disqualifying under statute. Reason A is not correct. Voluntary training courses are not mandated grounds for license action. Reason B is not correct. Errors and omissions insurance is typically not a statutory licensing requirement. Reason D is not correct. Late fee payment may result in administrative penalties but is not a disqualifying ground for revocation. Question 8. An insurer submits a new disability income policy form that includes coverage terms inconsistent with Washington's mandatory policy standards to the insurance commissioner for approval. Under Washington law, what action may the commissioner lawfully take regarding this policy form? A. Approve the form and require future amendments in the next filing period. B. Disapprove the form and prohibit its use until necessary revisions are submitted. C. Approve the form with variances granted under a conditional waiver program. D. Refer the form to the National Association of Insurance Commissioners for multi-state approval. The correct answer is B. This option is correct because the Washington Insurance Commissioner has the authority to disapprove any policy form that fails to comply with state-mandated standards and to bar its use until the insurer submits the required revisions and obtains approval. Reason A is not correct. This is incorrect because the Commissioner cannot approve a form that violates mandatory standards, even conditionally. Reason C is not correct. This is incorrect because Washington law does not provide a conditional waiver program for non-compliant policy forms. Reason D is not correct. This is incorrect because referral to the NAIC does not substitute for the Commissioner's state-level form approval authority. Question 9. Under Washington state law, the term insurance transaction encompasses which of the following activities? A. Solicitation, negotiation, execution, and servicing of an insurance contract for compensation. B. Underwriting risk assessment and setting premium rates for insurance policies. C. Only the collection of premiums from policyholders on issued policies. D. Issuance of policy forms and endorsements by insurers. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is solicitation, negotiation, execution, and servicing of an insurance contract for compensation, which matches the statutory definition of an insurance transaction under Washington law. Reason B is not correct. Underwriting and premium setting are insurer functions, but not the complete scope of an insurance transaction. Reason C is not correct. Collecting premiums is only one aspect of servicing, not the entire insurance transaction. Reason D is not correct. Issuing forms is an administrative task, not the broad statutory transaction definition. Question 10. Which entity is classified as a fraternal benefit society under Washington law rather than as an insurer? A. A mutual life insurer owned by policyholders under a corporate charter. B. A risk retention group formed by policyholders to self-insure. C. A stock life insurer that issues shares to the public. D. A nonprofit organization operating under a lodge system to provide member benefits. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is a nonprofit organization operating under a lodge system to provide member benefits, which matches the statutory definition of a fraternal benefit society in Washington. Reason A is not correct. A mutual life insurer is a chartered insurance company, not a lodge-based society. Reason B is not correct. A risk retention group is a liability self-insurance arrangement, not a lodge-based society. Reason C is not correct. A stock life insurer is a corporate insurer issuing public shares, not a fraternal society. Question 11. Under Washington law, which statement accurately describes an unauthorized insurer? A. An insurer lacking a certificate of authority and prohibited from transacting insurance in the state. B. An insurer with a certificate but limited to wholesale brokering activities. C. An insurer licensed to solicit insurance business to Washington residents. D. An insurer eligible for Washington's Guarantee Association coverage. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is an insurer lacking a certificate of authority and prohibited from transacting insurance, which aligns with Washington's authorization requirements. Reason B is not correct. Having a certificate governs authority, not licensing limitations on brokering. Reason C is not correct. Licensed insurers by definition are authorized, not unauthorized. Reason D is not correct. Unauthorized insurers are ineligible for Guarantee Association coverage. Question 12. Which requirement must an insurer satisfy to obtain a certificate of authority under Washington law? A. File articles of incorporation, bylaws, and actuarial opinion, and maintain specified minimum capital and surplus. B. Obtain a certificate from the NAIC validating financial strength before filing. C. Demonstrate 10 years of operational history in another state before admission. D. Provide a performance bond in lieu of capital and surplus deposits. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is filing corporate documents, an actuarial opinion, and maintaining the required capital and surplus as prescribed by Washington statute. Reason B is not correct. The NAIC does not issue state certificates of authority. Reason C is not correct. Operational history is not a statutory certificate requirement. Reason D is not correct. A performance bond cannot substitute for capital and surplus deposits. Question 13. A Washington insurance producer places a commercial property policy with an insurer that is not authorized or surplus lines licensed in Washington. According to state law, what are the likely consequences of this action? A. The policy is void. The producer must return the premium to the insured, and the insurance commissioner may impose a civil penalty up to $500 per violation and suspend the producer's license. B. The policy remains in force, but the producer faces a misdemeanor charge with up to 90 days in jail. C. All unearned premiums must be paid into the Washington Life and Health Guarantee Association Fund. D. The producer is subject to a $10,000 civil penalty for each unauthorized policy, with no license action. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that unauthorized policies are void. The producer must refund the premium, and Washington law authorizes a civil penalty of up to $500 per violation, plus possible license suspension. Reason B is not correct. There is no criminal misdemeanor provision under state law for this violation. Enforcement is through civil penalties and licensing actions. Reason C is not correct. Premiums from void policies are returned to the insured, not paid into the Guarantee Association. Reason D is not correct. The statutory civil penalty is capped at $500 per violation and includes licensing sanctions, not a standalone $10,000 fine. Question 14. Under AFRASI W48.1720, which individual is required to hold a Washington insurance producer license to transact insurance for another? A. A salaried insurer employee conducting in-house policy training. B. A third-party claims adjuster evaluating and settling covered losses. C. An independent agent negotiating coverage terms in exchange for commission. D. A customer service representative processing premium payment adjustments. The correct answer is C. The definition in RCW 48.17.20 requires licensure for anyone negotiating insurance contracts and receiving commission, which applies to an independent agent negotiating coverage terms for compensation. Reason A is not correct. Conducting in-house training as a salaried insurer employee is not considered transacting insurance requiring a license. Reason B is not correct. Adjusting claims is governed under the adjuster statute, not the producer licensing statute. Reason D is not correct. Processing premium adjustments is a clerical duty and does not meet the definition of transacting insurance. Question 15. Which of the following is exempt from Washington producer licensing under CW 48.17-40. A. A licensed attorney negotiating insurance incidental to legal services. B. A corporate risk manager arranging coverage solely for the employer's own exposures. C. An individual giving insurance advice for a separate consulting fee. D. An insurance consultant compensated to place policies for multiple clients. The correct answer is A. RCW 48.17. 40. Exempts attorneys when negotiating insurance is incidental to legal practice, provided no separate commission is accepted. Reason B is not correct. Corporate risk managers do not qualify for the incidental legal services exemption. Reason C is not correct. Receiving a separate consulting fee for insurance advice disqualifies the incidental exemption. Reason D is not correct. Insurance consultants placing policies for multiple clients require licensing under producer statutes. Question 16. According to RCW 48.17.050, an applicant for a Washington insurance producer license must submit which of the following as part of the initial application? A. Proof of errors and omissions insurance of specified minimum limits. B. A statement of personal financial conditions certified by an accountant. C. Fingerprint-based background check and required application fees. D. Copies of completed prelicensing education certificates. The correct answer is C. RCW 48.17.TDS mandates submission of fingerprint-based background check results and payment of application fees for all initial producer license applicants. Reason A is not correct. Errors and omissions insurance is not required until after licensure in Washington. Reason B is not correct. Personal financial condition statements are not mandated under RCW 48.17A50. Reason D is not correct. Prelicensing education certificates are verified by the department, but not submitted with the initial application. Question 17. After passing the qualification exam, a resident applicant must complete which step under RCW 48.17.70 to obtain an initial producer license? A. Submit an electronic license application and pay the prescribed fee within 90 days. B. Provide proof of compliance with continuing education requirements. C. Obtain a certificate of appointment from a licensed insurer. D. File a bond or trust fund agreement with the commissioner. The correct answer is A. RCW 48.17.070 requires a resident applicant to electronically submit the license application and pay the fee within 90 days after passing the exam to secure the initial producer license. Reason B is not correct. Continuing education is not required for the initial license, it applies to renewals. Reason C is not correct. Appointment by an insurer is separate and not required to issue the initial license. Reason D is not correct. Bonding or trust fund requirements do not apply to producer licensing under this RCW section. Question 18. Under AR CW 48.17, a non-resident producer licensed in the home state may obtain a Washington non-resident license by filing which of the following? A. An application, fee, and certificate of reciprocity within 30 days of home state licensure. B. A notarized application and proof of Washington residence. C. A certified copy of the home state license and a certificate of good standing from that state. D. Evidence of at least 1 year of active production and completed WA prelicensing courses. The correct answer is C. RCW 48.17. OT5 permits non-residents to obtain a Washington license by submitting a certified copy of the home state license along with a certificate of good standing from that jurisdiction. Reason A is not correct. There is no separate certificate of reciprocity filed within 30 days under this statute. Reason B is not correct. Proof of Washington residence is not required for a non-resident license. Reason D is not correct. Active production experience and pre-licensing courses are not mandated for non-resident reciprocity. Question 19. Under RCW 48.17.47, a temporary insurance producer license issued upon the death or disability of a licensee is valid for a maximum of how many days? A. 60 days. B. 180 days. C. 120 days. D. 90 days. The correct answer is D. RCW 48.17.87 specifies that a temporary producer license issued after the death or disability of a licensee is valid for up to 90 days. Reason A is not correct. The statute allows a longer period than 60 days for temporary licenses. Reason B is not correct. A validity of 180 days exceeds the maximum duration specified in the statute. Reason C is not correct. There is no provision extending temporary licenses to 120 days under C by 48.17.07. Question 20. Superior Insurance Brokers, LL. C submits its initial application for a Washington Business Entity Producer license, listing Jane Smith as its designated responsible producer. Upon review, the Department of Insurance notes that Jane's individual producer license was terminated 2 weeks prior. Based on Washington regulations, which requirement has the LLC failed to meet? A. The entity did not provide a copy of its corporate charter as part of the application. B. The designated responsible producer's individual license was not active at the time of filing. C. The entity's designated sponsor producer lacked the minimum experience requirement. D. The business entity failed to submit a surety bond at the required coverage level. The correct answer is B. The designated responsible producer must hold an active individual license when the business entity application is filed. Failure of that requirement causes an incomplete application. Reason A is not correct. Corporate charter documentation is required for incorporation, but not a condition for a producer license application. Reason C is not correct. Experience requirements apply to individual licensing, but do not substitute for an active license for the designated responsible producer. Reason D is not correct. A surety bond is not required for business entity producer licensing in Washington. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below, we read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.